Thank you.
Yeah, so very fast history lesson. I'll skip quite quickly through my slides, but you can probably download them later to get the full picture of everything here. And since I guess most of you were not born yet when internet came to Norway, and some of you were just in the middle of it when IPv6 happened, we'll start off with the very early days. Internet came to Norway somewhere, let's say 1970, when the NorSAR, the Norwegian seismic array, was connected to the United States through a satellite link. And this was done to monitor Soviet nuclear tests. What happened before this, if you're interested, can be found in this book, which was sort of 40 years of computers in Norway, published in 1993. And of course, in 1973, Norway was connected to ARPANET in addition. And then, let's see how to do the next here. Yeah. And then the world looked more or less like this. This is the complete map of all routers and all servers on the internet in 1973. And you have Norway over here as the first country outside of the United States. There's also a link up there for more details about the first years of Norwegian internet by Paul Spilling and Ingvar Lund, who were sort of in the middle of it. Timeline. IPv4 was introduced to the internet in 1982. NIX, 1993, which most of you probably know. OsloNet was the first commercial operator in Norway, established at the famous pizza party by a bunch of professors. And then you had PowerTech coming a few years after, started by a bunch of kids. And rumor has it that it was partly funded by Solofondet. And by 1995, the search engines came, and after 1995, the internet has been more or less the same. The experience with the internet by 1995 was more or less what it is today. Okay, so just a little bit about me. I've been pairing at NIX since 2002. Now working at SimilarMet, which is partly owned by OsloMet. And I took my master's at the University of Oslo a long time ago. And the first 6 years of the SIXPON, I was responsible for Norwegian IP addressing. So me and my friends and the PowerTech guys, we were not really the first movers. We didn't design much of this stuff, but we were the very early adopters of everything. We had the social media, we had the internet at home, we had blogs, web, cell phones. We set up Wi-Fi before it was Wi-Fi, and we were the first to test out IPv6. So back to the timeline. 82, we had IPv4, and then in 1990, the talk started to get the next version of IP. And it was finished by 1995, when the RFC 1883 came out, which is 30 years ago. Of course, there's been lots and lots and lots of adaptations since then. Linux got support for IPv6 around November 1996. And in the first implementation, we had ping, telnet, and we had tunneling over IPv4. And then we had IRC very early also. And PowerTech people had an IRC server on IPv6 around that time. IBM AIX was the first commercial operator with a standard IPv6 in a standard release in 1997. And sometime around 1997, Cisco fixed this. Windows from 1998. So the software was early. What about Norway? This, as so many other things in the internet world, it was a bit random people who started this. It was the radio amateurs in Oslo. It was the network students in Trondheim, and PowerTech were sort of the first bunches who did this in the middle of the 90s. The hub of the IPv6 internet in Norway was in the Radio Shack at the physics building in the University of Oslo for a few years. And these are sort of the... And the first global IPv6 network was 6-bone, which consisted of a lot of islands around the world that were connected over these IPv4, IPv6 tunnels that was supported by the very early Linux implementations. And by 2006, it was more than 1,000 different sites in 50 countries. We were connected in November 97, or we actually had a few connections before that, but since that date, we've been permanently connected to IPv6 in Norway until now. And we had the /24 delegation of IPv6, which is an enormous amount of IP addresses. And then some other, of course, we were tunneled through Sweden and lots of other institutions connected to us at the Radio Shack. But then we got some proper funding from the communication laboratory at the UIO. We managed to buy some Cisco routers, and Ole Trøen behind here, he compiled the Cisco version for us with IPv6 for our 7200 routers. And we had an ATM backbone between the sites. And Norsk Regnesentral and University in Oslo were sort of the key players in this. The minister opened the internet too in 1998. We've been doing this for a long time. Of course, he sort of connected two fiber cables, or we didn't trust him, of course, so he connected the same two ends of the same cable going just around the pillar. Yeah. And then the first mention of IPv6 on the NICS mailing list I searched for was in 2009, so the operators were a bit slow. And since 2020, it's been a requirement for all governmental purchases to support IPv6. My guess is that somebody after me will talk a bit more about that. There was a press release, 7th of June in 2001, where Telia stated, we will be the first in Europe to have a commercial launch of IPv6 for everyone. And then there's another press release 22 years later. So, yeah, as we know, it's slow. I don't know if we plan on having any questions for the lightning talks, but I'm always open for a beer or a coffee for anybody who wants to talk.